All right, everyone. The red light is on and we are recording. This is Kyle and Mark back for another episode of the Weekly SITREP. So tonight is April 11th. It is 9:08 p.m. This episode will be released tomorrow morning. So every week, Kyle and I get together and we talk about big events from the world of business and politics, all in an effort if you are someone who's thinking about entering into the wild of the civilian world after your time in the military. We're trying to give you the information, tools, resources you need to help ease that transition. So the idea being we'll talk about stuff that you're going to want to talk about in job interviews to help you understand certain industries or help you figure out what kind of jobs you want to get into, whatever it may be. All right. So every week we start off with some defense and security news, just kind of ease ourselves into the show. You know, we're vets, so we're still interested in, in this world. And so the first article that we're looking at tonight is Biden's $715 billion defense ask. Higher than expected, but lower than Trump's plan. I'll be honest, Kyle, I think I just pulled this one up and forgot to look over it. What exactly attracted you to wanting to talk about this one?
I wanted to talk about it for two reasons. The first is that when you want to, just for like everybody's situational awareness, right? When you want to have an understanding of when, say, like a government or an organization doesn't really want to talk about something, they release it on Friday afternoon,
Yeah,
which is
totally
which
true.
is which is what happened here. And it's interesting, right? Because if you read it, so it's a top line of 715 billion, which is a non-inflation adjusted increase of 1.4% from what Congress appropriated 705 billion in 21. And then once you factor in the other defense related spending at the Department of Energy, the total request is 763 billion, so about 1.7% higher than the one that Congress appropriated this year. So I don't know. I just wanted to read into it and be like, oh, okay. So like, if I were to hear this get politicized, like, how would I actually like adjust it, right?
Right.
And so they go to say, hey, large chunk increases, pay raises for men and women, and civilians support them, and then investment in non-defense, but also ensuring the Defense Department can continue its strategic goals as we outcompete China. They just like say it out in front. And then and then go, progressive Democrats say the request is too high. Republican hawks say it's not enough. Wall Street analysts say it's good enough. So I'm going to believe the Wall Street guys because they are the ones who actually want to make money off of it.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's interesting to see, right? So this coming week, you hear like Biden, blah 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 blah, or like maybe just like have some perspective. Like it's more than what was appropriated.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we're seeing some continuation, at least, in like the top line stuff here of a lot of like the Obama era policies of a pivot to Asia Pacific region, China
Yeah.
influence. He's probably also wanted to talk about, modernizing the nuclear arsenal and everything. And it's probably also going to be something that Biden wants. That was something Obama worked on. And I'm sure that it will also be, a key part of the package.
There's no like any of all the you ever heard of like guys who man those like missile silos.
Oh my
Like
gosh. Yeah.
second first lieutenants, and
Yeah.
it just sounds like a literal nightmare.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, do you remember the cheating scandal of like
yes,
a couple of years ago? Yeah, where they were all like the people who were deciding. I mean, not really deciding, but who were like running the nuclear silos. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, there was this huge cheating scandal with them of people like failing the test and then just getting like passed along.
yeah,
And like
they have
yeah,
to take like they have to take like currency and certification
right,
tests to
right,
basically prove that they're like at regular intervals that they're capable of operating these nukes.
yeah,
But
yeah,
sounds like a literal job from hell. It makes Fort Drum sound appealing. But I also guess it's really important too.
yeah, yeah. And I know we like to bitch and complain about going to Fort Polk, Louisiana, or 29 Palms for the Marines out there or whatever. But yeah, I'm thinking of being like a brand new lieutenant and being sent to some godforsaken place in like North Dakota.
Yeah, Minot, North Dakota. Like, welcome
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the moon.
yeah, yeah. Welcome to the moon, and you're gonna sit in a small shack and wait for nuclear war every day.
And you're like some 20 or 25-year-old. Oh my god.
Yeah, just
And me.
yeah.
Like,
I think typically we like to think, oh man, I should have joined the Air Force, but yeah, that's one route. Oh man, glad I didn't get that job.
Yeah, I hear like if you can't get, yeah, I don't know. I've heard interesting things about about how people get selected for that stuff, like out of the academy and everything. But whatever. Hey, we needed it, so I'm not knocking on it.
Yeah, I'm sure the tax or whatever they're called at at Air Force Academy are like, okay, here's my list of people that are the most antisocial. They don't have any friends and are also like total nerds and can do this job. And Air Force is like, hell yeah, we will take them.
Yeah, there are a lot of weird people in the Air Force.
There's a lot of weird people out there, definitely in the Air Force. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. We'll stop ragging on the Air Force. Sorry for you zoomies out there. We'll move on to the next story where Prince Philip has died. I think his final age was about 427, if I'm not mistaken.
He was 99 and he was 2 months shy of his 100th birthday.
Damn, that's crazy.
This dude has seen some shit.
Yeah.
And that's actually why I picked this article, right? Because so Prince Philip, right? He was a vet, right? So like, respect.
Holla.
But he's interesting, right? Because he's he's been the consort of Queen Elizabeth forever, right? And by consort, it kind of I think that has like a dirty connotation, like
definitely.
like
he sounds like the other man or something right now.
Yeah, he's like he's Carrie. I'm on a podcast. It sounds like, oh yeah, he's the stud I keep in the closet or something.
Right.
But he's so this dude is alive for basically a century, and this article here says his whole life arc encompassed the UK's imperial zenith as well as lots of empire and a shrinking global role. And so he comes from, like a different time, right? He comes from a different time when European like royal families married into each other. So even though he was Prince Philip, and he was a UK, whatever, the dude was not from the UK. His family was actually exiled from Greece. So he was born a prince of Greece and Denmark, and his family was like exiled out of it. And then he grew up like across Europe, like studying in like Germany and Spain and the UK. And he joined the Navy, the Royal Navy, at 18. And apparently, because he was a prince, right? He was like an exiled prince, which I don't know, that sounds kind of cool to me.
It does sound cool.
He like got this thing, and my wife knows all about this because she's watched The Crown, But like he like struck up a relationship with Queen Elizabeth, right? And it's just like, I don't know, the dude's dead, and it's like an entire the planet is no longer like that.
Yeah. I remember on one of my deployments, I was working with some Brits, and we were going to be there for Thanksgiving, and they knew that Thanksgiving's a big American holiday, so like, okay, like we want to be good hosts. Brits are known for being good, friendly people. And they're like, we're going to put together a Thanksgiving dinner for the Americans just because you guys are cool. I'm like, all right. They had this baller ass house. They had a fridge just like full of beer and just like a table. Awesome. And like they had all the trimmings, like turkey, stuffing. I mean, everything, man. And then just like bottles and bottles of scotch and cigars. It was great.
Yeah, they know how to put on a good show.
Yeah.
The American military is a remarkably sober army.
Yeah, for sure. And so I remember after many beers and many scotches later, I'm sitting there talking to one of the guys, and he was like, man, we know that the British Empire is no longer what it once was. So like, 100 years ago, we could just go in and get all the information that we wanted because like the sun never set on the British Empire.
Yeah.
Now we just make friends with everyone and get them drunk, and hopefully they tell us something. And I was like, I'm on your game. I'm on your game. Hopefully they didn't say anything.
Where was this? Where was this specifically? You were in the UK or?
No. So I was in Saudi Arabia.
Okay, you're in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So the Brits had that kind of pull that they could pull together a fucking turkey dinner in Saudi Arabia, huh?
Yeah, the food probably wasn't the tricky part. The tricky part was probably the booze. And we were probably definitely breaking all kinds of laws. I'm hoping that.
Yeah, Saudi's not a fan of alcohol.
Yeah, I'm sure MBS is putting out a fatwa on me and the Brits right now because
I think MBS probably definitely enjoys alcohol.
Yeah, he also definitely listens to this podcast too, so I'm sure he's going to know about it.
Yeah, I mean, he already killed that one guy. So, well, actually, when he did that, right, there's a really funny. My life exists on like Instagram, unfortunately,
Right.
and when he killed that journalist, right, and there's a picture of like him and Vladimir Putin, like
Like,
basically like having like a bro handshake
yeah.
and like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
like smirking, and Trump
Yeah.
was like standing there looking down. It's just like the funniest shit.
Yeah.
They're like, we're getting away with everything.
So that was the weekend. It was Jamal Khashoggi was the name of the journalist.
Yeah.
That happened the weekend that I got to Saudi Arabia, like at the start of my
No.
deployment. So like we landed in Saudi Arabia, spent there for a day. We flew to Bahrain, where there's like a big naval station. I had to go check in with my commander there. And then while we were there, the story of Khashoggi broke. And so we're sitting there like, holy shit, like we're going right back into Saudi Arabia. There's this big like international incident going on, blah, blah, blah. The thing is there no one dares speak out against the government. So like no one that I worked with, none of the Saudis or anything, ever brought it up.
Oh, really?
Ever.
Wow.
Never. They wouldn't dare.
See, that's a big difference between the United States, right? Where
Oh yeah.
everybody just says like, including people in service, aren't afraid to give you your opinion of exactly what they
Yeah.
think about the
Yeah.
president.
Yeah. Like that first Monday morning back at work, everyone would be talking about it. Not in the Saudi military.
Yeah, I bet, man. Dude,
Yeah.
they don't fuck around. That's a
They
different
don't.
society.
They don't.
That's
Okay.
that's cool though. That's cool.
Yeah. It's kind of a wild setting. And then actually coincidentally for my ethics exam, so it was like a fake business case, and it was basically the case of Khashoggi. And so you were like a consulting firm and had to decide if you like
It was
wanted to
like
continue a project with them or something. Yeah.
MBS calls in McKinsey saying, "Should I off this guy or not?" Give me
Was
the
it
analysis.
wasn't quite that, but it was definitely like you're a big consulting company working with Saudi Arabia. Like, do you continue or not?
They would do it too. They
Oh,
wouldn't even think. They'd be like, they've gotten in some serious issues with ethical
they
stuff, right?
have. They have.
Most
Yeah.
consulting firms have uh especially the bigger ones that have a lot of mixed businesses have like a risk acceptance process. But I guess if you're McKinsey, you're so small, you can just kind of do whatever the fuck you want. So
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up the defense news. So we move into the civvy SITREP now. So this is where we talk about, exclusively stuff that's going on in the civilian world and business news and everything. So this first one, I'm pretty pumped for this one because there's a lot of
yeah,
exciting stuff going on here. And
yeah.
it's just simply called 10 signs that things are getting back to normal, from friends to full middle seats.
That's right.
So I just got my second shot on Friday. Pretty pumped. Didn't have any side effects or anything. I think typically a lot of people have had like a crappy day the next day or whatever. I don't know. I was good, but super pumped to just like, I don't know, man. Pandemic feels like it's almost over.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard the summer was going to be like fairly normal, and then
Right.
the fall would be a little different. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to kind of have some semblance of life back, right?
Right.
And I got vaccinated as well. Though I had some not terrible symptoms, but enough that it wasn't super awesome for a couple days. So but important to do. But yeah, this article, it talks about, hey, there's a monster turnout for the Godzilla versus Kong opening,
Right.
right? Ranked in almost 50 million over 5 days despite capacity limitations at most auditoriums. That means a lot of people were making the most of the available seating,
Right.
which is good for cinemas. Major League Baseball fans are back in the stands, right? Yeah, they've had way more people. I was kind of surprised they kept people out of baseball parks to begin with. I'm like, really? Like most of them are open air, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
even the ones that are enclosed are like huge.
Yeah.
Whatever. Big trade shows return to Vegas. This is
Yep.
important.
Yeah.
So, and I've never been to a trade show in Vegas, but I imagine they're not boring.
Oh. So I remember a couple of years. So my stepbrother is a data scientist, and so he always gets involved. Usually goes to the Amazon Web Services conference they have out in Vegas every year, and it's just, I mean, like that one's like one of the primo ones. I mean, they like shut down the town for this
Oh,
just
really?
because, like, I know on the show we've talked multiple times about how AWS, Amazon Web Services, is like a huge part of Amazon's revenue model and everything. So that's like a really big deal for them to talk with all of the various people that run the servers and run AWS and all that jazz and everything. But yeah, it's a good sign that businesses around the country and like, trade unions and all the various connectors of the business community are like, yeah, let's get together and talk about the next year or whatever. Because like we're kind of checking the block on the pandemic right now.
Yeah, I think people ask me like, should I get AWS certified? And I don't really know what to tell them because it sounds like something that would be useful. So I'm like, sounds useful to me,
Yeah.
you know. And then other people will be like, yeah, it's definitely useful. There's a lot of that in Salesforce.
Yeah.
Both two. I've never used AWS, but I have used Salesforce, and you can do a lot with it. So if you have good knowledge of it, right, you can make shit happen, right? Because sometimes the toughest part of like some of these jobs is learning the systems these companies use.
Yeah. Yeah.
So something to consider.
Yeah. So some of the other stuff
Yeah.
they're showing here, Disneyland reopens. Always fun.
Disneyland. The Disney World's been open like the entire
Yeah.
time since I've been like 5 times. Because it's like the only thing to do that I
Yeah.
can do with 2 kids.
Yeah.
That's not entirely true. I could go do something, like we've been to the beach too.
Right. Airlines are booking middle seats, so people
Yeah.
are comfortable flying back around. Hotel rooms.
Delta's finally relenting on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure the hotel industry is just pumped to get people back in there. Concerts are back in the book. Sorry,
I've noticed hotel prices have gotten a little more expensive, right?
Yeah.
So concerts, yeah.
Concerts back in the book. This is the one, the Friends reunion is finally taping, and I know everyone here was anxiously awaiting that to happen.
Damn, I don't want to see all sad ass friends all old and shit.
Dude, I know.
Terrible.
Although, I mean, Jennifer Aniston definitely still has it going on.
Yeah, Jennifer Anderson, out of man, I hate to say it, out of that entire group is probably the one who's aged the best.
Oh, hands down. Yeah.
Yeah, but
hands down.
Total smoke also.
Yeah. Indoor dining ramping back up. Good stuff. Tourists returning to New York City. Awesome things. So yeah. It's this thing is not over. People are still getting COVID. People are still in the hospital. Yeah.
Because they said, hey, 2 indications we have a way to go. And number 1 was we're still working from home.
Right.
New York City office rents currently being negotiated are worth 9% less than leases executed in 2019. And cruises are still up in the air. So cruise operators have not convinced the federal health authorities to let them begin voyages in July. So that is, yeah. So, once cruises are good and we're back in the office, we're about as close to normal as I think this will be, especially with the huge world shaping shift it's been for everybody.
Yeah. So good stuff all the way around. So this next one is titled "The Latest Workplace Perk: Cash Bonuses for Taking Vacations." So I saw you post something about this on your Instagram, Kyle.
Yeah, so this is my old firm that they're talking about here, which I'll just go and say is PricewaterhouseCoopers, the illustrious PwC, which is a good company to work for. They're kind of like Deloitte, so like every vet I talk to is like, well, if they talk about consulting, they talk about Deloitte because Deloitte's done a good job of like branding itself with vets.
Right.
But PwC is also a good place to work. It can be a very demanding place to work. And by the way, I just want to make something clear to everybody. Like you'll hear like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, clearly very elite consulting firms,
right,
and they pay extremely well. Though not like, so much crazier than like some of the other firms do.
Right.
But they generally are, they're harder to get into. But all these places work you to fucking death.
Oh,
and they pay really well. And they demand a lot out of you. And when I was at PwC, we'd be on the counter side of Bain and BCG all the time, working on projects or especially because I worked in M&A, so in deals. But this specifically, right? So PwC, I saw this obviously because I have a lot of PwC folks that I know, and also on the journal, and basically it's gotten to the point that nobody's taken their time off there, that they're going to basically pay people like, hey, if you take a week vacation, we're going to pay you an extra $250 to do it, and they just like can't figure out else how to get people to take vacation. And I've got like 3 working theories on this. The first is that people are terrified to take vacation.
Do they? Sorry, do they have an unlimited PTO policy, or is
No, I
it
think
okay?
no. You think I think I got like 2.5, and then weeks or something, and then it went to like 3, or maybe it was like 2.5.
Okay,
And then you got a bunch of holidays, and they sometimes just give you like the 4th of July off, like the entire week.
right.
And they generally, most firms really do shut down like the last part of the year, but the rest of the time you're like full
Balls to
bore.
the wall. Yeah.
It's yeah, so it's just interesting, right? And like they just said it, they're like, hey, economic oh no, I gotta go through my theories. First one is people are terrified to take vacation time. Could be entirely true. When I was there, right, I'd meet people who just wouldn't take vacation, you know, or they take like working vacations. And so like if you think about you want to get into a demanding job like consulting, just know that that's kind of what you're signing up for, is that attitude. And then the second theory I have is that there's people are they're working from like wherever they are, because they could be working from the beach, they could be working from the mountains, right? It just didn't really matter where they're at,
Right. Right.
and so they just don't feel the need to take vacation, right? Because they're just able to kind of like already be in a vacation spot, which I think is going to be entirely true. And and my third kind of like idea is that some people, if they're waiting until the economy picks back up and they could like change jobs and they get their PTO paid out. Because
Right.
if you have nowhere to go, right, so they're trying to like get these people to go. And from a firm like PwC's perspective, right, like PTO on the books is a huge liability because it's a debt that they have to pay out, right? So nobody likes liabilities on your balance sheets.
Yeah. So just for everyone listening, so like the reason I asked about if they had an unlimited PTO policy is I know that's like a hot thing right now. I think a lot of tech firms, especially, are putting that into their benefits package for employees, of saying we've unlimited PTO. And I think typically what has been found is that employees actually end up taking less time off because they're afraid of taking advantage of the
Yeah.
policy. Whereas when you have like a fixed number of days, you're like, okay, well, like this is what I have, so like I'm gonna spend it, I'm gonna use it. Although apparently not at PwC, who's trying to incentivize people to use it. I'm sure
Yeah.
there's some level of like a pandemic effect too, of people are like where am I going to go? I don't want to
Yeah.
fly in an airplane or stay in an airport or go on a cruise or anything right now.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
might as
So
well
they're
just
like,
save it.
yeah, so I should save it, right? And they have every right to. I think the company has like you can't go past like 60 days or something, like kind of like the army does. But yeah, they it's just wild to see. I was talking to a few friends there and they're kind of laughing about it. They're like, yeah, we're just like super busy. Like we can't, like, I'm like, it makes sense to me. Um, I always try to take vacation regularly though.
Yeah.
And
Kyle,
then
this sorry, go ahead.
and then they would, when at least when I was there, this was like right as I kind of left right a little like after the pandemic started. Um, they would generally try to make sure you were taking PTO. But
Right. This is a good question for anyone who's listening on active duty or something. And like, the way pretty much leave always worked was block leave. Like you had some type of set period where you could take leave. So like how did it work for PwC when you wanted to take time off?
um, it kind of depended on the person, right? But in their individual situation, like somebody
Right.
with a family would have a longer lead time than somebody would not. But generally, you would try to plan like vacations in between projects.
Right.
Or when a project was like ending or something, right? So, because like in consulting, right, you get staffed on like a continuous, like you get staffed on like different projects, right? And these projects are, um, they could go anywhere from like a couple weeks to a year,
Right.
but generally like 2 to 3 months. Um, and so then you would try to just like program them in between, because then you might be on the bench for a little bit as you look for a new project, or you would talk with your project team before you'd start it, right? And so like this is actually a great point, Mark. Is when people ask you like, hey, what's the culture at like these firms, right? You got to realize the culture is like different from group to group within the firm.
Right.
There,
Right.
it's different from team to team member to from project to project that you work on, right? Like it's just, so it's almost kind of impossible to put your thumb on the culture in some of these places. Um, you could be in one part of the firm and experience entirely different like work-life balance, et cetera, challenges than somebody on another side. And like I get questions all the time, like how's X, Y, and like I mean, I don't know, it was okay. And here's like the reasons, but just realize that you're just not gonna know until you get there.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. I think in particular with consulting, that's probably definitely true because you're always, shifting around a different team, different projects and everything. Um, if you're going to a company where like you're going to work in the same office with the same
yeah.
people day in and day out for however long you're there, you probably can't get like a better pulse on the culture that is there. And definitely something in consulting, like people are kind of shifting around a lot. There's not necessarily going to be the same
Yeah,
kind of culture.
it's very chaotic. Like you
Yeah.
do, you do like it's why it's one reason why firms, somebody asked me about cultural fit. I'm like, consulting firms really do look for a good cultural fit because they need people who are you can meet up with and hang out with when you're like away for a long time and,
Yeah.
and be flexible and everything, because like the whole team environment is very dynamic and they like bring people together to do these like really intense projects for like short periods of time. They may not know each other, so you gotta like you gotta have like the right kind of like fit of people to do that.
Right. Right.
So
The
assholes, though there are plenty, normally do not need to apply.
Yeah. The classic airport test of, if I'm stuck in an airport waiting for a
Yeah.
flight or we get delayed together, am I gonna be able to actually hang out with this person, or am I gonna want to gouge their eyeballs out?
Yeah, I've been at an airport with a partner, right? And it's just him and I just like sitting, just like we got a couple hours to kill and we're drinking a beer, eating some chili, maybe doing some light work. But it's like me and a guy, like our pay difference is like so vast.
Right.
It's like unimaginable,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and he's like, oh, just fucking hang out with him like any other person, that's like a big like it's not like you wouldn't do that with the colonel,
Right.
like it would be weird, right?
Yeah.
Unless you were like super tight with him from his like company commander days or something.
Yeah.
Like they did this is every day. It's normal stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was here. I had a couple of friends who were general's aides, and they would
mhm.
always say that like a part of the job was just being the general's friend
Oh yeah.
because it was like so hard for them to just have friends and like have time for friends. Like you as that, lieutenant had to like kind of bro out them sometimes just because like they needed that.
Yeah, I've always thought it'd be a cool job. My friends that did it looked like they had a good time. They got their asses worked though, but I
Yeah.
think it was a very positive
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Everyone I know who did it said it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, where else are you gonna get that kind of peek at
Yeah.
the fucking executive life?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think that ship has sailed for me at least.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's definitely sailed for me. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's gonna be calling me up to be their aide anytime soon.
No, no, they're not.
All right.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't think. Oh, there's one more thing I want to, and just so everybody knows, they're gonna pay them. They're gonna give them a firm wide raise, and then they're gonna expand the bonus pool, which means that the bonuses are gonna be larger, and they're gonna all give them a thank you bonus of a week of pay.
Yeah.
So
I think this is an important point for anyone. Like when you're looking at a job or some type of career path, getting a firm understanding of, we often just look at salary. And I think, especially coming out of the military, like we think just salary. But every firm and every position has some type of different compensation package between, healthcare benefits and pay and time off and maybe small little perks, whatever it is. So it's looking at like the totality of that package as like what provides value to you.
yeah, and there can be big differences, right? Like I won't go like too into the specifics, right? But my base pay is lower than what I made at my old firm at PwC, but my firm also pays for my healthcare benefits, like lock,
Nice.
stock, and barrel. Like I'm back
Yeah.
in the army. It's
Yeah.
fucking gold plated. This is like a $20,000 ad back a year. It's
Yeah, man.
crazy.
That's huge.
And they also like the way they match our retirement contributions, like the vesting is immediate instead of
Nice.
at PwC where you had to like X number of years your
Right.
your account would vest. But this it's like every time it hits, it's mine.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. We're going to move on to the next story. So this one is P&G. So it's Procter and Gamble worked with China Trade Group on tech to sidestep Apple privacy rules. So I know we've talked about this on the show before of Apple is, man, my timeline is going to get messed up here. is working on or has completed an update where essentially you as the user are going to have a lot more autonomy over
your data. Yeah.
Over your data, and you can decide and choose like how that data gets shared with third-party providers.
Yeah,
Now,
so it says they're planning it, the software update in a couple weeks,
there it
and it
is.
require app users to choose whether they want their activity to be tracked across other companies' apps and websites. So prepare to get like 800 of these little messages that tells you if you want to
Right.
allow this to go on.
So like kind of like why this matters for everyone is there's so many businesses out there that want your data. One, like maybe their business is just having your data, but then they also like, use your browsing history and how you use different social media apps and everything to provide you targeted ads and provide you, to just like use that data to target you in a specific way. And Apple's kind of come in and right in the middle as the central bank of tech and hardware in a way, and saying like, okay, well, we are the actual thing by which all that data processes through, and we can step in the middle and say like, no, you as the user have the ability to decide what data goes where.
Apple is absolutely terrified of its products being, like think about how upset people get when their like privacy stuff gets released, right? Like, people were really upset about the whole Facebook thing, and when they had that big leak. I honestly didn't understand it. I was like, okay, I mean, I understand it was like a big leak. I just didn't understand kind of like the whole Cambridge Analytica thing. It never made sense to me. But like Apple never wants to be in a position where they're like, yeah, we fucked up, right? So they've kind of centered their whole brand around, hey, we are the privacy machine. If you put your shit in iPhone, like the world's, that's yours.
It's on lock. It's yours.
Yeah. So it's their strategy.
Yeah.
And so I think, and so this, right, is Procter and Gamble, which is makes some everyday household products, right, that we all use.
Right.
Apparently has been collaborating with a trade group in China on ways to sidestep this privacy update, which is I didn't know Procter and Gamble got down like that.
Yeah, that's also what I was thinking when I saw this. And then the more I was kind of thinking about it, so Procter and Gamble, like Kyle said, makes a lot of like the household stuff you use every day. They're in what we call the consumer packaged goods space. Okay, so like your household cleaners, any stuff that you have in like that closet in your house of like random crap, probably a lot of Procter and Gamble products in there. Okay, and so like they're definitely someone who's going to look at how you browse across the internet and interact with social media platforms, because they have, I don't know, 1,000 different brands or something like that. I'm totally just making that number up, but like 1,000 different products, like they're trying to market to you in a very specific way. And they want to know how they can do that in the best way with each one of those different products.
Yeah. They're apparently one of the world's largest advertisers, which would make sense, right? Because they have such, like, we're talking everything from Gillette razors to Charmin toilet paper, right? So they have a lot of stuff they need to advertise, and the margins on it are probably super thin too.
Yeah. So crazy to see Procter and Gamble pairing up with China in some type of subversive move to counteract Apple. That was a storyline I didn't expect to see, but here we are.
Yeah, it caught me by surprise too. And they're involved with the Chinese Advertising Initiative Group or something, which sounds like, the Chinese Advertising Association to develop the new technique, which would use technology called device fingerprinting, the people said. Okay. The advertising method is being tested through apps and gathers iPhone user data through the use of an algorithm. It can track for purposes of targeting ads in a way that Apple is seeking to prevent. Man, I thought Apple was like the NSA, man. I thought like, that's what they want you to think. They want you to think, okay, we're like we're your personal NSA.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, I'm sure Procter and Gamble did not want this to come out in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the next story. So this one is titled "The Economy is Recovering: How to Invest When Everything is Expensive." So the good side of this story for anyone who's got money in the stock market is that stocks have been going just straight yard for the last year and a half ish or so. It's crazy, man. Like it's just a wild bull run going on right now.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
My portfolio is just. I just tell my wife, I was like, "Can you believe this shit? Like, it's ridiculous."
Yeah. Every about every quarter, I do like an update on my personal net worth statement and everything. I just did mine the other day, and I was like, dude, I'm in grad school right now. Like this shit's just like going up from just, the money I saved in the army. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the downside of that is that means everything's really expensive right now. So if you want to keep investing or find deals or something, it's hard because stuff is really valuable right now and really expensive. So I think the answer here is Bitcoin, right, Kyle? That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, everybody knows I'm a big fan of Bitcoin. No, I actually listened to. I was going to tell you about this. I listened to this pitch this past week from this like hedge fund. I think I don't know. That's kind of like losing. They did the 20 the 2 and 20 rule, which leads me to believe they're a hedge fund. But my buddy's dad set it up. He's invested with them. No, my buddy's father-in-law, and these are guys who are like deep into crypto, like hey, you pay us $100,000 and we're raising like our second or third fund of like 7 million to do like all this, and like I listened to the pitch and I asked a lot of questions. And what they're really hot on is the buying protocol tokens for decentralized finance, right? Which is maybe I'm not gonna get into it here, but like because this goes way off track what this article's about. But we'll talk about it some other time. Anyway, so what this is saying, the economy is recovering, how to invest when everything is expensive, right? And what this is talking about is generally when analysts compare share prices, analysts usually try to compare companies, right, using share price a bunch of different ways, but share prices to the earnings companies generate, which is what investors really have a claim on, right? And so these P ratios, right, are important, right, because it's just a way to compare companies apples to apple. But this is talking about a different thing called the CAPE.
Sorry, just a quick pause, everyone. P, price to earnings ratio, is what that means. Sorry, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, or the literal stock price to the earnings.
Right.
Basically tells you if you have like a really high P ratio, right? Like Tesla has like a P ratio of like 1,000. It's because their share price is really high, but their earnings are not. So it indicates there's the valuation's higher, or there's a lot of speculation. And so this is using a CAPE ratio, which is the cyclically adjusted P ratio. So it's a 10-year running average, which allows to account for economic boom and bust, right? So it's a way to kind of like, if you think of like all the like squiggly lines, right? It's kind of a way to like even that out a little bit.
Right.
It's the same thing as it's kind of like CAGR, right? Which is a term used for adjusted growth rate when you're looking at a company's earnings. And so it's saying that, hey, using this cyclically adjusted P ratio, the S&P composite is trading at a CAPE of 37. That's more than twice the historical average, though still less than the dot-com bubble peak of 44. It reached 33 before the 1929 crash. So what this is saying is that like the S&P, which is an index fund of like all these major companies in America, right? This is the S&P composite 1500, so it's even more. It's not the 500, it's the 1500. So it's an even broader look at the economy, and it's saying that it's got this huge adjusted P ratio, and it just basically says like it's an everything rally. Like everything's expensive. When we say expensive, all these stocks, right, which are stocks that are trading at very high P ratios compared to their earnings, which historically, right, and it's just saying, hey, interest rates are at record lows. People just have all this money to spend, right? And there's not a dip in real estate. So like if you're looking for a deal to buy, if you're an investor, you want to buy something that's cheap, these aren't here. And basically the article says you shouldn't wait, right? You should either just jump into it because there's still more room for growth, depending on if you think that's good or not, and then it also says that there are some like discounted cyclical and foreign stocks where the low valuations, there aren't an indication of underperformance. Essentially, it's just like these still have room to run, right? And so it's like, say if you want like high risk exposure, which if you invest in these stocks right now, you're not, because they're saying is the valuations are so high that it's to think that they might be able to go even higher maybe is not a correct assumption, right? So if you're invested in them, you could have low returns. But if you go into these underappreciated like cyclical stocks, right, that's where you'd want to get like risk exposure.
Right.
So it's just cool. It's like, hey, everything's on fire right now, and you have to look really, really carefully to find a discounted stock.
Yeah. Stay in the market. Don't try and time it, people. Basics. Always follow the fundamentals.
Yeah, and if you there's like I think I heard sometime that if you miss like the 10 or 15 like most like important days of the stock market, like so it's like you need to time. You really can't time it.
I think like I think it was like something like if you weren't in the stock market during like 2008 or something, you would have missed 10 of like the biggest rally days, and you would have lost out on like, I don't know, 30 percentage points in gain or something like that. All because there's like days or there's brief periods of times where there's a huge correction or something. Point being, you got to have money in the game to make money in the game.
It's true.
Yeah.
Not just, and also through dividends too. You get dividends through stocks.
Big time. All right. The last story of the night, we're talking about Amazon and the defeat of the labor union membership vote. So I know we spoke about this when the story kind of first broke, that Amazon employees in Alabama were seeking to unionize. And this is kind of, I believe this would have been the first union in Amazon, one of the first unions in the big tech industry to begin with.
Yeah.
They're kind of talking about poor work conditions, or I should say, let's say poor work conditions. But so some of the complaints I saw was that disciplinary actions were fettered out by app, not by person, which seems like super cold and calculating. That employees were told they were being disciplined because they were too close to people based on COVID protocols, but then there wasn't enough space for them to like actually be far apart. Yeah. I mean, Amazon is a company that is just like balls to the wall focused on efficiency and like, how do we maximize every single thing all of the time? Because that's what they do. And like, this is just kind of an example of like that rubbing against the reality of having people work in that system. And I think one of the pettier bits of things that I saw in here was that, so Amazon put a mailbox for the ballots, but they put it directly in front of the warehouse. So employees were like, oh, like, I don't want to go put that in there because it's like right underneath the boss's office,
Yeah, this is a great story because it's one where you could make both the arguments, right? That, hey, Amazon, maybe union, representation could have helped here, but there's also the argument that, hey, they didn't do it right, and it's because even though Amazon is a very demanding place to work, and believe me, if you want to get out of the military and go to an MBA and then go work at some of these places, they are demanding places to work. Like punishment meted out via app, right? I've had plenty of really mean fucking emails sent to me. And I've seen really mean emails sent to people who are much more senior to me.
Yeah.
So these can, but here's the thing. Amazon, I think I thought this was going to get defeated, and I thought I was going to get defeated as soon as I saw it.
Yeah.
Not because I'm Nostradamus. It's because Amazon does actually pay its employees fairly well.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of Amazon employees. They're like, yeah, we like give like equity comp to like fucking people working in, packing stuff, right? Like Amazon stock's really valuable, right? And so people say, no, hey, even though this is abusive, I'm okay with it because I'm making money.
Yeah.
And these guys make like twice the national minimum wage and everything. And there was one quote in here. A woman said, Amazon is one of the only companies I've worked for that pays healthcare benefits on day one, right? So you got to think, in an industry like tech, right, where the pay is competitive and there's strong demand, like Amazon has to expand warehouses, and so it has to pay above market wages to people in order to keep them there, which is really how you keep people working. You have to pay them more. And so I don't know. It's just an example. Like, don't believe everything you hear. Like, think critically. Like, try to go below the surface level and try to understand what's really going on, because it may have not just been Amazon, busting balls here. Like, clearly they played a little dirty, right? But like, it's Amazon. Yeah. It's fucking Amazon. Yeah. Like, come on. Like, they copies people's products on the people, like, some like mom and pop stores selling like spatulas or something that have
great. We're gonna make the exact same spatulas.
Yeah, and undercut you. Like, these guys don't give a fuck, right? Yeah. They're just trying. Like, for them, every day is day one. And I saw this great quote, like a seriously, like, it was basically this dude on Twitter, and he's like, if you read like all the past 20 years of filings, from Jeff Bezos did for Amazon for like to release shareholders, you could have gotten an MBA, because it's like all these amazing like business strategy lessons. And actually, hold on, where's my phone? I'm gonna read some of these, because they're, if it's cool with you, Mark.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not gonna read all of them because I'm not a psychopath. But let me see here. Yeah, I've read all of Jeff Bezos' 23 years of Amazon shareholder letters twice now. It's an MBA of its own. Your customers are loyal to you right up until the second that someone else offers them a better service. Many of the problems you'll face have no textbook solutions, and so you should happily invent new technologies. Find the real root cause or causes of a problem and do real root fixes. So when you fix it, you're not just fixing it for one customer, you're fixing it for every customer. How to achieve outsized returns. Outsized returns come from betting against conventional wisdom. Given a 10% chance of a 100 times payoff, you should take that bet every time, but you're still going to be wrong 9 times out of 10. Big winners pay for many experiments. I mean, it's like totally gold.
Yeah.
I'll probably share this on my Instagram.
You should, man.
Oh yeah, pay to quit. Once a year, Amazon offers to pay its employees to quit. The goal is to make them rethink their priorities, because they don't want an employee staying somewhere they don't want to be. That isn't healthy for the employer or the company.
Yeah.
That's just a different way of thinking. There's something about day one. It's like every day. Jeff Bezos, like every day is day one, day 2 is stasis, day 3 is like death or something.
Yeah. His mentality, like he really tries to, even though that Amazon is this, behemoth company now, and they're super valuable and everything, he really tries to keep that startup ethos of the company of like, we're scrappy and there's always someone coming for us. And everyone wants to be the king until you're the king.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's right too. People are coming for Amazon's ass. Walmart's building all this stuff. Target is doing very well. I thought Target would have been acquired by Amazon by now. And a couple of years back, I heard rumors that they're in talks to do it. This was right after Amazon bought Whole Foods. So we're thinking like, okay, Target's next in the Borg assimilation here, but not so.
All right, y'all. That wraps up the show for the week. Before we close out, Kyle, you got any last words you want to say?
Hey, well, you make it sound like I'm about to like die. No, I don't.
All right, cool.
I'm good. I'm heading into the week ready to go, though tired.
Yeah, I'm the same, man. Had a busy day of kickball, working out, getting some work done and everything. Just a day in the life of NBA right now.
It's a great life. You'll miss it.
It is. All right, y'all. We appreciate you coming in and listening. Please leave a review for the show. Helps us, one, know that we're doing a good job. We like getting pats on the back too. And then also helps other vets find the show and get good information out there. So we appreciate all you listening. Stay tuned and we'll see you next week. Take care.
All right. Bye.